This family has been waiting 3 years to find out the truth. One of theirs disappeared overnight, without a word to anyone. Lysiane Freyne, aged 54, is believed to have been murdered. Her body was never found. At the time of the trial, before the Santa Assize court, her parents were living in torment.
The story we have, of course, but what we want is for them to tell us what he did with our daughter.
I'd like her to be with us so that we can mourn.
Her ex-husband and Jordan, her eldest son, are about to face the man accused of killing the 50-year-old, her last companion.
The pressure's building up a bit now, and now I'm waiting for him to arrive, to see him and meet his eyes.
For 3 days, 66-year-old Guylain Fricot, who maintains his innocence, will be on trial for murder. 3 years earlier, on the island of Oléron, on the 13th of October 2015, at 7 o'clock in the morning, Lysiane, a salesgirl in this small bakery, didn't show up for work. She was usually very punctual. Worried, her employer tried to contact her several times, but to no avail. He called the police, who immediately went to the victim's large house with swimming pool. There was no sign of forced entry. Her cars were still there. Only her telephone and computer were missing. An investigation into the disappearance was opened. 150 soldiers were deployed to comb the island. They searched the forests, seashores, ponds and marshes, but the search came to nothing. Investigators are wondering how and why this woman suddenly disappeared, without giving any news to her relatives. Lysiane has lived in the port of La Cotinière for 20 years. Lysiane is a well-known figure on the island. She has run several restaurants, the most recent of which was the creperie she had just sold a few months before finding a job as a bakery assistant. Passionate about motorsports and fitness, she spends several hours a day in the gym. Julien Berthe, her instructor, always knew her to be very enthusiastic. 2 years before Lysiane's death, he organized a flash mob on the island of Oléron. Lysiane is in the top right-hand corner of the video, wearing a white hat.
Someone who loved life.
Even more so recently. Lysiane was expecting a happy event. She was about to become a grandmother for the first time. Her son Jordan, surrounded by his father and brother, was about to become a father.
When we told her the news, because she was the first person we told, she burst into tears. She was so happy. She was hoping it would be a little girl. It was a little girl because she'd only had 2 boys. And so for once, I had succeeded in making her a little girl, so she was very happy.
Lysiane even shared her joy on social networks. A fortnight before her death, she had installed a car seat for her princess.
That's why it was impossible for her to disappear.
After interviewing the entire family, the investigators are convinced Lysiane couldn't have left voluntarily or taken her own life. But one man intrigued them, her new boyfriend, 63-year-old Guylain Fricot. He had met Lysiane 3 months before she disappeared. A former cook known for his strong character, he sold second-hand books at this market. She ran the bread depot opposite his stall. As the summer progressed, Lysiane and Guylaine, both divorced, grew closer and their complicity became more apparent. At the time of their disappearance, in 2015, the market traders testified to their romance.
They were in love, they kissed, they held each other by the neck. They were people in love, you could tell no.
When questioned along with all of Lysiane's relatives, Guylaine Fricot explains that he doesn't know what happened. All he says is that he saw Lysiane a few hours before she disappeared, and that he hasn't heard from her since. He is released, but instead of remaining at the disposal of the investigators, Guylaine Fricot leaves the island of Oléron, cut off his telephone and sold his car. For the gendarmes, this hasty departure made him the #1 suspect, and physical evidence confirmed their belief. During a search of his home in the north of the island, he found Lysiane's blood on one of his jeans and on ropes in his mobile home, as well as freshly cleaned marks on the floor. It took the gendarmes 12 days to locate him. Guylaine Fricot was finally arrested in the Paris region, in a traveler camp hiding under mattresses. He proclaimed his innocence and explained his flight by his fear of the gendarmes.
I know, I've read it.
Jacqueline Pinot has been a friend of the booksellers for over 15 years. They were a couple for a few months when they first met.
When I read it, I said to myself that it wasn't possible for him. I can't imagine Guy ever laying a hand on a woman. And then, when he said he'd killed her, frankly, I was shocked and disturbed.
And yet, the evidence against Guylaine Fricot is mounting. In his vehicle, the gendarmes discovered a receipt from the DIY store showing a purchase of 35 kilos of lime and 40 kilos of cement made on October 9, 2015, 4 days before Lysiane's disappearance. Investigators believe that Guylaine Fricot premeditated the murder of Lysiane Frégny and used the materials to conceal the body. He was charged with murder and imprisoned. After 3 years of investigation without finding Lysiane, the courts declared her dead. As for Guylaine Fricot, he continues to proclaim his innocence. And for his lawyer, cement and lime are not proof of guilt.
This purchase is an insignificant part of the case. He'd bought it a few days before to do some work at a friend's house in Saint City, and on Saturday or Sunday, he'd taken his bags there to do the work. And that's how he explained it.
A cord and bloodstains were also found in his mobile home.
He explains that there's a series of sexual games between him and Lysiane with the cord, and that there may have been relations and a little blood loss. That's it. That's how he explains it.
Explanations that didn't convince either the examining magistrate or the public prosecutor, who referred him to the assize court. Last week, as soon as the trial opened, experts and witnesses took the stand. They all painted a bleak picture of the bookseller. The expert psychiatrist who saw him in detention declared, "No anxiety, no empathy at the news of Lysiane's disappearance." His own daughter recounts how he almost killed his ex-wife with a cabbage cleaver because she wanted to leave him. The president of the assize court then confronts the accused with the accumulated evidence, the blood-stained ropes, but above all the purchase of cement and lime. Guylaine Fricot keeps repeating the same thing.
I won't give the names of the friends I had to work on, because I don't want to bother them with this affair.
Even though the president points out that giving the names of his friends could perhaps save him 30 years in prison, the 110-kilo colossus sticks to his guns. Faced with this silence, the tension begins to mount among Lysiane's family and friends. Felipe, her brother, is at his wit's end.
I think that after a while, we're not going to get up anymore. We're going to jump on it. I'm thinking of my friend. If it goes on like this, we're in trouble. He's going to have to talk, explain himself. You can't stay in denial like that. It's not possible. This guy has no heart.
2 hours later, the bookseller was in for a rude awakening. Since the beginning of the investigation, Guylain Fricot has maintained that everything was fine between him and Lysiane. But the 50-year-old's former boss disagrees. Dominique Saubois is about to take the stand. Lysiane had confided in him a fortnight before her disappearance.
She told me she'd been wanting to separate from him for some time, and that it was complicated. He took it badly, was possessive, and followed her everywhere. She no longer had any freedom.
After this testimony, Lysiane's version of the accusation changed. Lysiane was said to have been distant in the 3 weeks preceding his disappearance. Did Guylain Fricot kill Lysiane because she wanted to leave him? Jordan is convinced of this, although he still has no answer to these questions.
It couldn't have happened. I think we were close. I think we were close. We were very close to him. It makes you laugh. Seeing us like this makes you laugh. No, you don't understand. No, you don't understand. No, because if you did, you'd go the other way, sir.
Let's go out for a while.
The next day, the public prosecutor, convinced of Guylain Fricot's guilt, requested the maximum sentence, 30 years in prison. The defendant's lawyer is just a few minutes away from his closing argument.
I remain in doubt, both as to his guilt and his innocence. And so, I'm going to plead acquittal.
That's likely to make the room tense.
It's not a request that comes as a surprise, or I'd be surprised myself. It's something he's been asking for from the start. If there's one thing that's never changed, it's the fact that he's always said he didn't know what had happened, that it wasn't him.
After 3.5 hours of deliberation, the court reached its verdict. Premeditation was not accepted, but Guylain Fricot was sentenced to 30 years imprisonment for murder. A relief for the family.
He's going to die in prison, and that's fine with me. This isn't what we came for. No, but it's okay. But it doesn't matter.
So much the
Since
better. He
wouldn't
took
give
the
it back.
maximum, so much the better.
Are you going to be able to mourn?
No, we won't. We never will.
We'll never be able to.
We'll never know where she is. We'll never be able to live happily. We'll live for the rest of our lives like this.
Guylain Fricot is taken back to his cell. He continues to proclaim his innocence and immediately decides to appeal. To this day, the mystery of the missing Oléron woman remains unsolved.